All right, just before I begin, I just want to make sure we have good sound with the online, the Zoom people on Zoom.
Okay, here.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. We just want to, we really appreciate your presence here and your attendance. We want to start with the land acknowledgement. So I will begin. Sorry, my name is Susan Lee and I'm the PIAC Ward 12 rep, also Earl Hague parent co-chair.
Microphone is
Sorry, we have two mics going here, one for the Zoom and then one for our sound system here. I think it needs more battery. Well, we'll start with this. Okay. It needs battery.
We don't have battery?
There might be extra battery over there. I'll just speak really loudly, if that's okay with you. Right now, we just have to put in battery for the mic. We acknowledge we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and the Inuit peoples. I encourage you to continuously take time to reflect on and acknowledge the harms and mistakes of our past, and to consider how we are and can each, in our own way, try to move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Before we begin, we'll just have Wilmar go through a little bit of FAQs and code of conduct. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Wilmar. I'm a shared services liaison with Trustee Services, assisting Trustee Pay today, mostly on the technical front. First of all, we're going to ask everybody for patience. This is a hybrid meeting. This is new since the pandemic, and we're still working out all the technology. As Susan said, there are two microphones. Everybody who needs to speak, including the presenters, need to have two microphones. One for use here in the room, and one that is wireless so that people online can actually follow along. So that goes later on as well. If we ask questions, you can only ask a question that can be heard by everybody if you have a microphone. So make sure that you go that Susan actually assigns you the microphone. So that's one. This meeting is being recorded and will most likely be posted on Trustee Pay's ward website on the TDSB website. So keep that in mind in what you say. And if you don't want to be in the screen is currently looking this way. So if you don't get into kind of the front row and the front of the room, you will not be in view, but you will be heard if you're anywhere near the mic. For questions live and everybody else, we're asking everybody to keep it short and to the point. We have many people and many questions, and we're going to try and get to as many people as we can. So try and keep it as short and to the point as you can. For people online, we have a lot of questions. We're going to try to get yours as well. Please put them in the chat. We do not have the technical capacity right now to funnel your audio questions into the room. Maybe we'll get that into the next version of these hybrid meetings. So please put your questions in the chat and we'll try and get to them all. So for everybody's information, on top of what we have in the room here, that's about 100 people. We also have about 120 people online. So this is a good attendance. Thanks very much. And, over to Trustee Pay.
Okay, good evening. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to this special meeting. I'm so thrilled to see so many people come to this meeting because you care about your children's education. I really appreciate that. As many of you may be aware, the specialized school admission lottery system really was a deciding factor for me to run for trustee. I have a great concern, just as all the parents across the GTA. So this is a meeting. I want to hear your concerns. This is going to be a listening session for me. I want to listen to your concerns. I want to hear your advice, how we can make our children to obtain the best educational opportunity as they deserve at the TDSB. It's my great pleasure to introduce, my colleague from Durham, Trustee Linda Stone. Please give Linda a round of applause, everybody. Okay. Also, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our superintendent, Marwa Hamid. It's Ramadan month. I'd like to say Ramadan Mubarak to my colleague, Marwa. Also to all TDSB Islamic parents and the students and the staff. I wish all the best to you and your loved ones. May the month of fasting bring the happiness and the joy to your life. My special thanks also goes to Principal Ricky Goldenberg at ERHAG and her staff, and Susan Lee, School Council Co-Chair, and my assistant Yalda Anwari, who's now available tonight, and Mura, co-deliver, for making this event possible. And then I want to thank all of you to come this event, all of the people online, because you care our children's education, just like I care for my children's education. Thank you. Now I want to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Markin Peski from University of Toronto, Department of Economics. Dr. Peski, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Peck, for organizing this meeting and giving me an opportunity to speak. I care about the topic very much. I presented. Thank you. I delegated to one of the TDSB committees, and I had 5 minutes, and I think the Trustee Pei wanted me to speak for longer, so that's why I'm here. So last year, TDSB introduced a number of changes to policy admissions to specialized programs, and really the most controversial of those changes is mandatory lottery. When TDSB made this number of changes, they gave some reasons. Those reasons are to better serve underserved and underrepresented communities, to remove barriers, to expand access. So what I want to do today is so first of all, these are all very important goals, and I think we all agree on it. What I want to do is to explain why, in my opinion, the lottery itself does not really accomplish any of it. And I want to start with the first goals. It's probably especially important. One of the problems is that TDSB thinks about it in a very narrow way. They seem to be only concerned about the racial representation in the specialized programs. So let's talk about racial representation. So what you can see here are two graphs that sort of illustrate racial compositions of TDSB, the top bar and of specialized programs. What you should see here is that Toronto is a very diverse district. It's one of the most diverse districts in the world. There is no dominant group. The overall representation in specialized programs seems to be very, very close to the share of the students in TDSB, with one exception, and these are those groups that depicted with green color. These are Black students, Middle Eastern and Latino students. So I want to come back to this. I see. I'm sorry. So this is overall representation, but when you look at individual programs like arts, like STEM focused programs, there will be bigger racial disparities. So what I want to talk is three STEM focused programs. It's mathematics and computer science in Lionel Mackenzie, TOPS at Bloor, and TOPS in Mark Garneau.
you will see similar pictures about those three programs, and I will be concentrating on them for two reasons. One, this is because these are the single most competitive programs in TDSB with 10-to-1 applications to admission ratio, but also because that's where I have data on it. So as I said, so here what you see, the top bar is still the student share in the TDSB, and the bottom bar is the racial composition of the those three STEM programs that I mentioned. You can see that there is a disparity. All groups except for Asians are underrepresented. Now, when you see this picture, the first thing that I want you to remember is that this is not a picture of some big privilege. Asian group is, according to the TDSB own data, is below TDSB average in important socioeconomic characteristics like income, parental education. It is also heavily immigrant, with 80% of working age people being first generation immigrants, with all the disadvantages that come from this. So this picture is really a story of a huge success rather than inequity. The second thing that I want you to okay. I'm sorry for being a little bit nervous. It's not the kind of audience that I'm usually used to. The second thing that we need to remember that the question is whether the lottery is going to change this picture in a direction that we want. So whether maybe this picture says something about the entrance exams being discriminatory. Maybe Asian students are better in taking math exams. The answer turns out to be that this picture has nothing to do with it, and has plenty to do with the fact that Asian students apply to top STEM programs at much higher rates. So right now, the bottom bar is still the admissions. This is the student enrollment in the top STEM program. The top bar is the racial composition of the applications. And you can see that those two pictures are very similar. Now, this is not to say that there is no reason to concern. It is very concerning that a large population of it is very concerning that maybe they don't see themselves as scientists or future mathematicians. Maybe they don't have enough confidence to apply and to take the exams. TDSB should really think very hard about those reasons. Now, but what is really important is this picture shows that there's a problem that happened somewhere else than at the entrance level. The problem that is somewhere probably at the middle elementary education, where this interest or this confidence was not developed. And when we are fiddling with the entrance exam and we are replacing it by lottery, what we are really doing is they are hiding the symptom rather than treating the underlying problem. The second important point that I want to make is that even if we think about the problem being narrowly defined as racial representation at specialized programs, then lottery itself cannot fix it. Okay, lottery itself is not a solution to this problem. And the simple reason is that if we were to run a fair lottery, then this fair lottery would simply replicate the racial compositions at the application stage into the admission. Those two pictures would be exactly the same. And the TDSB realizes it. That's why they designed something else than a fair lottery. There is a priority mechanisms. There are priority groups. Those priority groups participate in the first stage of the lottery, where they can only they assign to the priority seats. And then there is a second stage where all students still unassigned participate. Okay, I emphasize it. It's not the lottery which does the job. It's the priority mechanism. And the reason why it is important is that priority mechanism can perfectly well function within the merit-based system. That's really the key. And that's how it works in the rest of the world. Like, to just give two examples, in Boston, students who apply to so-called exam schools, they may get extra points for disadvantaged background. In Chicago, students will be divided into cohorts by their income. And within each cohort, the students will be compared by exam, by grades, and then students from each cohort, the top students from each cohort will be admitted to schools. Okay, I really want to repeat it. It's not the lottery which does the work. It's the priority system and priority mechanism. And the priority mechanism can function perfectly well without the lottery. So why do we have lottery? The TDSB refuses to acknowledge the problems with the lottery system, and there are many. The most obvious is that perfect candidate for specialized programs, somebody who would thrive in it, may simply not get in because of luck. And kind of the person that I'm thinking about is Mariam Mirzakhani. So I don't know whether you know, it's Iranian mathematician who was the first woman in the world 10 years ago to win Fields Medal. It's equivalent of a Nobel Prize in mathematics. The way that she described her start of the mathematics career is that she passed this entrance exam to the gifted and talented school for all girls in Tehran. And that's where she discovered that maths actually can be interesting and challenging. She had to pass the exam. Okay, this was in Tehran. In Toronto, she could get into a program like this if she was lucky. If not, the history would not happen. It is very important to remember that we are talking here about not about math support programs for like tutoring for students who need extra help, or maybe for students who are trying to learn violin. We're talking about accelerated programs. Which programs are designed to reach some level. For example, TOPS is designed for the students to in the last grade to take AP calculus or AP physics with calculus, and there is no way that they can do it without compressing the regular grade work from 4 years into 3 years. That requires amazing amount of effort. Similarly as ESA, where in the last 2 grades, you are supposed to work on the university portfolios. There's just, you need to demonstrate a large amount of willingness or effort. Of what I think is important is high interest and high passion for those topics. And the entrance exam was something that allowed to select students with respect to this demonstrated high interest and high passion. On the other hand, under the lottery, there will be students in those who will get in, who are there only because their parents ask them to, or maybe because their friend is going, and that's it. And by the way, I don't know how many of you are parents who tried this year to get into those programs. When trustees voted on the student interest program policy last year, they made the single one amendment. The single amendment was that admission process has to allow for demonstrated passion and interest. Here you have a quote from TDSB spokesman, which assured that something like this is going to happen. So if you applied this year to specialized programs, you know that there was absolutely no place to demonstrate passion and interest. Nothing like this existed. Another problem with the lottery is that there will be students who will get in who are not necessarily ready. And the reason is these programs are designed for working best when they target students at a very particular ability level and skills. For obvious reasons, you know, like when you are trying to form an orchestra in some of those programs, the orchestra can be only as good as the weakest player. Now, that may lead, and that led to many concerns that parents had, that there's a worry that it will lead to undermining the quality of the programming, and TDSB assured that they have every single confidence that it's not going to happen. Somebody said that it's demeaning to students and teachers to suggest otherwise. We know it's not only not demeaning, that's actually true. A similar experiment happened in San Francisco with their specialized program. Lowell High is one of the best US public schools. They introduced lottery 3 or 4 years ago. And after 1 year of this experiment, they observed that the rate of failing of the first year students' grades increased from 8 to 24%. Many students admitted we're not ready for high intensity programs. After another year of this, they went back to the merit-based system in order to protect students. We know already that in Toronto, the specialized programs are being asked to redesign their structure to accommodate lottery students. And this is, you know, very like when you go to the Fight for TDSB specialized program petition, it's very well described in case of the arts programs, what kind of changes are required. So again, why we are doing this? Well, TDSB talked about removing barriers. One barrier they mentioned is geographical barrier. The director of education talked about a world with no postal code discrimination. Now, that's really funny because one of the things that they changed is they introduced restriction of 50% of the seats in some of those programs to the local feeder schools. Socioeconomic barriers, they were absolutely not touched. The application form had no question about parental education or parental wealth. This is completely ignored. Expansion of access. I don't know how you understand what expansion of access means. When I think about expansion of access to healthcare, I think that there will be more doctors hired. When expansion of access to the justice, I think that there will be some lawyers who will do job for low or no fees for people with low income. That should mean increasing capacity. So there are no plans to increasing the number of programs. I asked many times whether there is any programs increased capacity. I got no answer. In fact, I hear from people from Earl Hague here that the arts program will have a reduced capacity by 25%. Reduced capacity by 25%. That's what I've been told. So when you put all those things together, and like every single goal seems that that's not happening. You start getting into this conspiratorial mood and thinking maybe something else is going on. And then somebody helpfully will give you this document, which was obtained from Freedom of Information request, which are minutes from a meeting of Specialized Schools and Programs Committee. This meeting happened in December 2021. It was attended by kind of mid-level managers from TDSB, principals of the high schools, some centrally assigned principal. And it happened right in the middle of the consultation process, where TDSB was supposedly asking parents what to do with the specialized programs. So what you can see here are quotes from this meeting. Okay, they talk about 5-year plan to close all specialized programs, 5-year plan to close all optional attendance. The 5-year plan is necessary. Until we remove all choice, we are stuck. There is a discussion of wants and needs. And when parents make a choice or students make a choice, whether it's a want or need, and who determines what is want or need. And this part of the discussion I find a bit offensive, because the discussion what is a want or need is something that I had with my 3-year-old when they said, I need cookie. It's not something that I think to talk when I'm talking about the high school students or parents. Now, this is very dispiriting, because if none of the reasons from the first slides were even mentioned in this meeting, and if we don't really care about it, if the only goal is to close specialized programs from in 5-year period, then there is no point of having any discussion about any of this. So let's not be very dispirited about it. And let's think about what we can fix. So I believe that those goals from the very first slide are important. And we need to think about some solutions. So I probably speak over time, but so I just wanted to mention a couple of them. Like, I believe that exam or auditions should have a clear goal to select students who will be able to reach their potential in those programs, who will be able to thrive in them. The exam should be equitable, it should be transparent, it should be clear how to prepare for it. Preparation. We need to create opportunities for students to succeed. And again, I'm not discovering something brilliant. Programs like this exist. When you go to New York, they have their specialized schools. They also have problems with, they also want to make those programs easier to attend by students with various disadvantages. They have a program called DREAM that is offering Saturday or summer classes to prepare for the exams, to prepare for the auditions, or maybe help with creating your portfolio. TDSB has infrastructure for this type of programs, right? Like there is a tutoring program. There are money for those things. I understand that TDSB right now is returning some of the money that was supposed to go for tutoring because they didn't manage to spend it. There is a way, there is a place and infrastructure to organize this type of programs. Information. There should be very clear information, not only about how to apply, but also what are the differences between those programs. I don't know how many of you were trying to understand what is the difference between different STEM programs or different arts programs, what exactly they do, how do they differ, in what sense they are similar. Like if we apply to those programs, you need this information. It does not exist. You would like to see information, what are the chances that your kid will get admitted? What is the ratio of application to it does not exist. This is a zero cost solution. Choice. Those of you who applied this year know you ranked two schools, your most favorite school and the second most favorite school. Those of you who are going to apply next year, you will have only one option to rank. There is absolutely no reason to make this decision. There is no administrative reason. At this moment, the program is run in a centralized way by computer. There is no reason to limit choice to one position. There's plenty of reasons why the choice should be expanded. And access. We really need a meaningful expansion of access. Like if you have a program where you have 10-to-1 applicant to admitted ratio, that means there's a huge interest for those programs. They are super popular. Question is how? There are schools in TDSB right now as we speak that are placed in convenient transit locations that are underutilized. Central Tech, next to the Blur and Spadina subway station. It's at 40% utilization. So I wanted to finish. I wanted to finish with this message that this is what I was trying to say, that lottery does not in itself address any of the problems that TDSB mentioned or helps to with their goals. In particular, it does not address the one that it was advertised to solve, which is the problem with the racial representation. We can do it without lottery. And there are low or no cost solutions that can achieve those goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peski. Wonderful lecture, very insightful. I learned a lot, okay? And I want to introduce my colleague, Trustee Liban Hassan from York Source, Western. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think I'm going to open up the floor for questions for Dr. Peski. Anybody have any questions? Okay, Sabrina. Yeah, just 1 second. Can you come forward? Yeah, or you go there?
We'll let you go.
Okay, sure.
Great talk. And the data looks very convincing. I just wanted to know what your sources are for that data, like the TDSB versus the, the specialized programs and, the demographics of them, where and how many people is the data representing? If that.
So.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I just called it. So the data come from Freedom of Information requests, like many of this data, for whatever reason, TDSB did not release. And that's kind of one of the problems. They justified the change by saying, we examined and analyzed lots of data. And so whatever they did, they didn't release it to public. So some of them, they didn't even look, like the application data to the max and to TOPS is something that I had to pay to get it compiled. And the single reason why I have data only on those 3 programs, and this is really only 1 year, is because it costed me $400 already. Like I just, and I think it's a problem because exactly the application data to those programs would tell them, like what if you are going to change something, what is going to be the effect. So that's the reason. Like I would love to have data on arts programs, but I don't have.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, before we take more questions or comments, we have a student who's just been waiting, and we'd like to, if there's other students or children who are here, want to just kind of ask questions or speak on their experience, we'd like to let them go first so that we can excuse them, and then maybe the adults can further on with their questions. So I have Layla Farmer here, and she wants to speak on just her experience with the application process.
Oh, here.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Please.
no, no,
You bet.
here, is that okay?
Oh, okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Layla and I'm 14 years old. I'm an 8th grade student at Claude Watson School for the Arts. As you all know, this year, the audition process for high school changed. The auditions for high school specialized programs were changed to a lottery. This was extremely frustrating and I was completely distraught. Before this system was finalized, I went to a protest hoping that this would help maybe not have this change. But unfortunately, the lottery stayed and it came to my application process. So I was applying and it came to the part of the application where you had to pick your race. This was difficult to me because I did not know what to pick. There was no space for biracial, just Black. This was hard personally for me having to choose and made me feel more isolated than I already feel because I'm often made to feel too white or not Black enough. This was and has been a struggle.
You're good. It's fine.
The lottery application was just another time that me as a mixed race person was not given a way to properly identify myself. I ended up feeling conflicted in my choice because I did not want to be denied the part of my heritage that I am so proud to be by picking white in the application. I was put in the lottery for Earl Haig dance program and was not offered a spot. This devastated me. I was trying to accept this, but I just couldn't. After this, I realized that I needed to take my future into my own hands. Although I was nervous to speak out against the lottery, my parents encouraged me to advocate for myself and supported me in my decision to write an email to many important representatives from TDSB. Now I have the privilege to come to this meeting and read all of you the email that I wrote. So this is my email. My dream has always been to become a professional dancer, and attending Earl Haig's dance program was a big step towards realizing this dream. As a biracial Black Canadian dancer, my journey has not always been easy, and at times I have had struggles not fitting into what seems to continue to be the stereotypical view of a dancer, especially in ballet. I have always struggled fitting into a world that still stereotypes a dancer as skinny, white, and a tall person. Misty Copeland is one of the role models of mine for many years and has inspired me to fight hard for my dreams and to not give up. So this is why I'm speaking. When schools were closed due to COVID, I began researching and preparing for my opportunity to audition for Earl Haig. After hearing so many wonderful things about the dance program, I was excited about the opportunity to be a part of such a great community of dancers and to expand my abilities in dance. And then suddenly my future was put to a lottery. When I found out I was number 25 on the wait list, I was absolutely devastated. In my 5 years at Claude Watson, I've tried to do as many extracurriculars as possible to help me become a better dancer. This year, I'm a part of a choreographer's ball club where I get to choreograph my own routines. I've just finished choreographing a dance routine and I'm now working on a jazz dance. After joining this club and absolutely loving it, I was looking forward to more opportunities like this to help me grow as a dancer and choreographer. Knowing that there were opportunities like this in Earl Haig's dance program was just another reason I felt this program would benefit me. I have been waiting and hoping that I would move up on the wait list and get a spot in the program, but after waiting for 3 months, I'm still number 17 and I've lost hope. I've been placed, in my home school and have been trying to make peace with the fact that I'm not going to my dream school, but I just can't imagine my high school experience not being at Earl Haig. I took the passion and I had worked hard to write this email with the hope that it would be for something better. I was so optimistic about this email and it having success in getting me a spot in the Claude Watson's dance program. Unfortunately, it wasn't that simple. I'm here trying to represent other students who are in this position of disappointment, some afraid of their future without this opportunity. I heard about Earl Haig's dance program just over 4 years ago, and about 2 years ago when I was in grade 6, I started preparing for this audition. I was excited for this opportunity to audition and even just the experience I would have gotten out of it. For the audition for the dance program, you need to take 2 classes that were an hour each, and you're also required to create and/or perform a solo in the audition. I had already been working on my solo and preparing for this audition when the news broke that the program would be a lottery. This was heartbreaking, and I don't want any other student to feel the disappointment I felt. I want all of the students to have the opportunity that I didn't get, and most definitely do not want any other student to feel deprived of an opportunity to thrive with others like them as I was. I'm not only speaking here to advocate for myself, but to help advocate for others like me. This is my opportunity to help others. There are various ways to encourage the underprivileged to audition and work towards these opportunities rather than depriving the ones that have worked so hard. This is a goal we should work towards. We can achieve this by encouraging students rather than depriving others. By choosing at a random, you're taking away the opportunities for those like me who would be willing to be dedicated and put time and energy into their program. Thank you.
If there are any other students who'd like to come and speak first.
Is your parents here? You're gonna hold this. I'm just gonna click this one here. Okay.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi everyone. Good turnout today. My name is Ethan, and I'm a student at Ursula Franklin Academy, which is a specialized school in the TDSB. In the past year, the TDSB has drastically changed the way that specialized programs will work, both in positive and negative ways. Removing the application process and changing it to a lottery system was supposed to open the program up for more students to apply. It didn't. It backfired on them. By doing this, they negatively affected the purpose of the program, and it completely changed what the program stands for. As Layla had said, she lost an opportunity because of this new system, which is completely unfair to her and to many other students that can relate to her. An example of this policy change and how it affects students inside the TDSB is here at Claude Watson. Because of this policy, students entering grade 9 will no longer get to pick an arts major. Instead, they will go into a general arts program. What this affects is that students will lose 1 year of valued experience. This could lead to many different things. My sister goes to Claude Watson, and in her first year, she's in grade 9 like me. And she's gone to so many film shoots and has gained so much experience in her first year at Claude Watson. In the future, many students will lose out on this. They won't make the connections they need to make to succeed. Ooh. The board rushed into this decision despite backlash and imposed the policy. This caused many specialized programs and schools to scramble to get ready for this. The former chairman and former trustee of Willowdale, Alexander Brown, put forward a motion to slow the process down. However, his motion was defeated. This caused even more issues for many schools. I speak for many students, parents, and educators when I say that the TDSB needs to rethink this decision. They need to look at what the students are experiencing and what's best for them. This decision was rushed, and the system they currently have in place will inevitably fail. We must find a proper solution that both promotes equity and reinforces the effectiveness of the specialized programs, while also being fair to many students with the experience and what they want to do with their life. To do this, the board needs to work with parents, educators, principals, trustees, teachers, and students alike. Everyone's voice should be heard. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to our students who came up and spoke, and especially to Leila. It wasn't easy. And for thinking into the thinking and true, because that was really necessary for us to hear as well. Now we'll open up the floor to, or do we have another student who'd like to speak? Okay. Anything good?
Yes, go.
You feel good? I'm just gonna mic you. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening at our Earl Hague Secondary School. My name is Peski, and I was a student trustee of the York Christian District School Board. You might be wondering why I'm coming here down to Toronto, and it's because of the lottery and the dangerous precedent that it sets, right? As a YDSB student trustee, I had the opportunity to talk about hundreds, probably thousands of students, both informally and formally. And I honestly can't think of an issue that has united students as much as opposition to the lottery, right? There's so many problems about the lottery. I think the two key things that stand out to me is the fact that it leads underprepared students into the program, right? We say we're trying to support students when trustees voted to implement this new policy. But the reality is that sending underprepared students into this program, it doesn't help anybody. It most certainly does not help the students that are underprepared and going into it, because as we know from Lowell High School in San Francisco, they're failing, right? They're going to be failing. That's not good for anybody. It is certainly not good for the very qualified students who lost out the opportunity. But it's also challenging for teachers, right? Because teachers are being forced to adapt their curriculum, and it's not fair for the students there who want to get the quality of a specialized program education. I'm also an IB student, so I know exactly what that process looks like. I'm in grade 12, heading into exams, starting next Friday, actually. And I had 5 hours of mock exams yesterday and 2 more hours of exams tomorrow. And I can tell you from a firsthand experience, talking to my peers in the IB program is incredibly challenging. It is emotionally taxing, right? And it's not fair to tell students to go into this program when they're underprepared. Even in my school, I think 75% of students have left the IB program because it is just that hard. And I think it is absolutely not fair to anybody to be putting underprepared students into this program. And what I say to TDSB trustees is talk to students, right? I've talked to YDSB students and they've been clear. And I think that if the board engages in data collection, talking to students, asking unbiased questions, I think the results are going to be astoundingly clear. TDSB students, as much as YDSB students, they also oppose the lottery because it simply doesn't work and it doesn't do anything for anyone, right? When we think about stakeholders, there's not a single stakeholder that benefits from the implementation of this lottery. And to everybody here today, please do keep up the good fight. For me, there is nothing more important than ensuring the Canadian dream moves on, right? Ensuring that every single student knows that with hard work and perseverance, they can get places. Thanks so much.
Okay, now we'll open the floor for parents or the adults. You want to? Maybe if we can have parents just line up, or caregivers, adults, anyone who wants to speak, if you can just line up in the middle there, then we'll just take it in.
Just hold it.
Can I clip it? You can hold it.
Yes, thanks.
Hi, I don't actually fit into any of those categories you gave other than adults, but I am here to offer 2 perspectives. My name is Jennifer Watson. Claude Watson was my father. Thank you. And I'd like to share with you his vision for the school. He would have been 99 years old on dance night if he were still alive, and he would be appalled at what the board is doing to this specialized program were he alive to hear it. If he was still on the board, which he was when he died, he wouldn't have allowed it to get this far, I know. His vision for this school, for other specialized schools, was to allow a place for students, especially teenagers, youth being the most troubled people in our midst, needed a place to go where they could be welcomed, where they would feel their strengths and their interests were honored and supported and encouraged. And that certainly happens at Claude Watson, as we would have heard from many of the students who came here tonight. I've been involved with the school for a long time now, and I've had the chance to speak to a lot of students, and a number of them have said to me, Claude Watson saved my life, meaning the school, not my father. I thought I did say my name. From a different perspective, I was an elementary school principal in Toronto until I retired a few years ago. And I can tell you, the only way any of the specialized schools other than French immersion and any of the special ed programs like the Gifted were only shared with parents through word of mouth. Principals would put them in their newsletters unless they forgot to, which often happened. Principals are busy people. And to put into their newsletters all of the programs that are available for students would slip their mind. And even with me, and I had a vested interest in this school, to this day, I don't even like to think about the student whose life would have been saved by going to a school for the arts. And it just slipped my mind to tell their parents about it. And they feel horrible to this day. So one of the things that needs to change about this program, and maybe it already has because I've been out of the system for a little while, comes under our wonderful speaker tonight's solutions page, where he talked about information. Advertising. How well are the programs advertised? To get access, you need to know about a program, and you can't rely on a principal recognizing your student as being perhaps one that would benefit from the programs. The information needs to be out there, just like French immersion programs are well advertised. Special education, if you had to offer gifted programs through a lottery, how successful would they be? Those students have to actually be qualified and go through testing before they can be selected for those. And any of the other specialized programs that are called special education are very well guarded that way. So I thank the speaker. That was extremely informative, the information that you shared with us. And thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. And keep up the good fight. The lottery has to go, but also a respect for and appreciation of specialized programs like the Claude Watson School have to be heightened in this board and encouraged. And they have to stop seeing such a well sought after program as somehow being a problem that they have to want to keep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watson, for speaking up. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to fight for the student parents. Make it Claude Watson. The crown to our Congo. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Can we have our next? So you can just introduce yourself.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Is that okay? Sound okay? My name is Michael. I have a son who's in grade 8 right now. He is in the French school board. And he's really good at math. He's really good at science, but his real passion is computers. He has been working with computers for as long as I can remember. He loves coding. He loves algorithm design. He loves website design. This is what he does. This is what he's really into. To give you a sense of interest, which is what specialized programs are supposed to be about, there is a high school contest throughout Canada for programming. When he was in grade 7, he made it to the national honor roll. This was a huge deal for him. And I actually want to thank Earl Haig for allowing him to write the contest here. Not being in high school, he couldn't write it at his own school. As most of you can guess, he applied for the program that he really wanted, which was at William Lyon Mackenzie, the Max program. It is an excellent program and a perfect place for him. You can all guess what happened. He didn't win the lottery. It was devastating for him. It is a lesson that I think he will carry for a long time. And I don't know how to explain to him what happened and why after the the work, the effort, the passion that he put into it. He still loves computers, don't get me wrong, but he needs to be around other kids that like it just as much. That's all he wants. He wants to be in that setting. Now, something else happened afterwards, and it's becoming a common theme, and I really think it's important to share it because I don't understand where it's going. So he is in a gifted program right now, and so after not being able to attend the specialized program, we thought, okay, we will transfer him to a gifted program. There may not be people who are into computers as much, but there'll be people who are into math, into science, into all kinds of other things, and they will find a way to continue their passion together and, you know, learn from each other. But a really bizarre thing is happening where right now TDSB is putting up all kinds of roadblocks, and right now saying there is an 18-month gap between him applying for gifted, even though he's already in that program, he's already studying there, but apparently this transition from one school to another is resulting in an 18-month gap, which is, in my point of view, ridiculous. I don't know how many of you are in a similar situation where after not being able to get into the program that you want, you try different things. If you are, please find me, talk to me. I really want to understand what's going on. If there's any advice out there, I would love to talk to you. Thank you.
I understand that many parents have anecdotal stories or stories that they want to share of their personal experience, but because of the number of people online and also the people who are with us here who want to share or ask questions, I'm going to ask everyone to just limit to their questions. So if you have questions, because we have 3 trustees representing the board who are here. We have the superintendent who is here. So if you have any questions, it'd be great if you could ask your questions and your stories. Please delegate and write to the board and write to the trustees to share your story. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neri Ju Hong, and I'm a graduate of the dance program. Layla, your speech brought me to tears. Many years ago, actually, before this building was built, I was in the old building. So I'm not going to date myself. But I'm also a teacher and educator in the Peel District School Board, and I have been for 19 years. And I've had the privilege of teaching at both of their regional art schools, which are the equivalent of Earl Haig. I started my career at Mayfield Secondary School, and I'm currently teaching at Cawthorpe Park Secondary School in the dance program. And just this week, we've been following closely what's been happening with TDSB. I am a parent in this board. My daughter wants my job in the future. And I said to her, well, I don't know if you're going to get in because there's a lottery system. I do have a question, but long story short, we were told this week that unofficially next year we cannot have auditions. We were able to have auditions this year. And just before I get to my question, we've always accepted students in our dance program based on potential. So experience or not, private lessons or not, we've had students with very little dance experience and a lot of dance experience. We've had students that can move and are musical. And we've also had the other end of the spectrum. 4 years ago, we had 2 female students accepted to Juilliard, and they are graduating this year. So the whole idea of specialized schools being elitist, my parents couldn't afford to put me into dance, but somehow they did. They couldn't afford private school. And if this school didn't exist, I wouldn't be where I am today. I also attended the National Ballet School for the Teachers Training Program and York University. And I've taught at many studios in the community, adjudicated as judges. But my question is, after our department had told us that we are unofficially not having auditions next year, is to the TDSB staff, and knowing what we know now from the San Francisco school, is there a discussion after this meeting of change? Because from my experience, there can be lots of meetings Lots of parents in uproar, but is the TDSB open to change and willing to discuss the issues here? Thank you.
Is there something you want to take this one?
Okay. I want to take this one.
I think the parents have very legitimate concerns. And those are concerns very serious. I also were fortunate to have the teacher speak up her personal experience. So I think everybody is really interested in what about my stance on the lottery system. My stand is I want it reversed. There are 11 new trustees, 11 new bright minds, including me. Stand up, my friend. Come with me. So, Liban Hassan, if people don't know, trustee from York,
Southwestern.
Yeah, Western. Here's my other good friend. Dennis Hastings from Etobicoke North. Okay. I think we deserve the opportunity to make this right for the students and the parents. That's why we're all here to hear your concerns. We're representing you. So we're planning to move motion to reverse the lottery system for next year. Thank you for the support. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, our next question.
Thank you. My name is Mike Tepper. I'm a graduate of this institution from 1989. This was the crown jewel of the North York Board of Education at the time. We had, among my personal friends, a two-time winner of the International Math Olympiad. We had a championship reach for the top team. We had a debating society that had over 50 teams from all over Ontario. We had graduates that going to Harvard, Yale, Princeton. It was commonplace. It was ordinary. I fear that that will be a thing of the past. And the previous speaker, I'm getting to my question, raised a very important word. That word is privilege. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about privilege. If mom's an orthodontist and dad's a hedge fund manager, then Junior gets to go to the University of Toronto schools where the tuition fee is 5 figures, or maybe Upper Canada College, or Crescent School, or Havergal, or Appleby. But if mom's not an orthodontist and dad's not a hedge fund manager, but the student is very bright and ambitious, there's only one place that that student can go where they have a fighting chance of qualifying for Juilliard, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, or Stanford. And those are the specialized programs. Max, TOPS, the Etobicoke School for the Arts. Those are the places that they can go. So let's now talk about the morality of privilege. Last year, we had a school board that played games with students such as Lila, played games with their lives. So my challenge to the distinguished trustees today is to present a challenge to the morality to their fellow trustees. Since they think that it is fair, just, and moral to put the lives of 14-year-olds to be subject to a lottery, will they do that to their own political careers? Will they dare to stand up in the board office at the council and flip a coin 3 times and undertake not to run for any political office again in the next round if they do not score 3 consecutive heads. Because that's what they're doing to the students. And if it's good for the students, it's good for the trustees.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lou. I'm a parent I'm a parent council at Claude Watson School for the Arts. I'm here today just to talk to you about the implementation of this new process. So my question to the board is, although you passed a motion based on lottery, and I applaud you for your goals of trying to address equity and access. But the way that this is implemented is very ad hoc. It changes on a daily basis. I'll give you an example. So right now at Claude Watson, we're not allowed to keep our wait list. Meaning, if 30 people, so every year we get 60 kids into the school for the grade 4. But come September, there will always be kids who decide not to come, whether they got accepted into the gifted program or private school, or they just decided that arts are not for them. So every year we will be able to draw from our wait list of students to fill the spots. But this year, we're told that, there's no longer a wait list. So everyone who applies through the lottery system to our program, if they decide in October, 2 months into the program, arts is not for them, we don't like this, and they decide to leave, we no longer have those spots. There is only 60 spots for these art programs. So what happens to our school? Our teachers will get surplus. We don't have enough funding. Our funding went from 150,000 in 2019 to 50,000 for this year. So we're 100,000 less in funding. We are also experiencing staff shortage. Right now, our staff count went from 15 to 13. And the board is asking us to adapt our curriculum, right? There's going to be a lot more work for the teachers to make sure that the program is suitable for all levels. So where are we going to get the staff allocation for that? So right now we're asking the board to guarantee us these precious 60 spots, and they're not willing to do that. And then I just hear now on the science and STEM side that 50% of the allocation is for the local catchment area. So things like this, the actual implementation of this lottery system is very traumatic, and it's like, who is being consulted on this process? Definitely not the school, definitely not parents. How is this board being held accountable for these decisions? So that's my question to you, and I hope that you ask those questions at the board meeting. And just to make a comment, because I will be delegating tomorrow, but they're not allowing me to delegate in person. I have to hand in a written form due to the volume of delegates on this issue. So I will be making a comment here in lieu of my delegation tomorrow, is that I really want to address this notion of the specialized program being, for the upper class, for the, family who can afford to train their kids from a young age. It is such a misconception. This is the only pathway. If you think about it, the elites always have a choice. They can get into the top private schools that Dr. Pepper mentioned, or they can move. They can move to other school districts. They could go to Catholic schools. That's why you see TDSB's enrollment numbers dwindling every year, because those who can afford it they cannot put up with this limited choice, this elimination of choice on the board, and they're moving to other boards, like the North Region Board, where they still have their IB programs. Their specialized programs available. And who was left are middle class families like us, who are underserved, underrepresented families like us, who will not have a pathway in the public system to be prepared for university level arts program and science program anymore. So if we allow them to, I mean, if it's in a perfect world, of course, art and science should be in every school, right? That's the goal that we should get into the public education system. But until we get there, these specialized school is the only program, the only pathway for someone who's interested to move to prepare them for the university level education. This is the only public pathway. These schools are the only way for these middle class children to get to that level. So please preserve us. Please preserve these programs. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, but for the space of time, it is already 7:46. We have many people who are online who are asking and have submitted online questions. So we're just going to take a pause just from the parents who are here. I am going to ask once again for parents. I know your experiences are really important. I have my own story too. I think right now though, we're all in agreement. So really we're setting up this forum so that you can ask your questions, because these questions are what are being recorded. And these questions are what the trustees will take back to the board. And I think the superintendent is also taking her notes here. And she said that she will be taking her notes to take back to the board staff as well. So your questions are really important to us. Okay, Wilmar, would you like to take the online questions or?
So why don't we start with a question people raised some media
Okay.
just through the Google form first.
Okay, so we'll start with the questions from the Google form first. So you're gonna clip it.
That's right. It's on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Okay, that works. Thank you. My apologies if I don't read them properly because, well, they're not mine. From a parent, there are a few lines and then there's a question, which I hope someone can answer that. The merit-based admission of the specialized programs were designed to identify the students who have potential, are interested, and have demonstrated the discipline and commitment to their interest. The teachers who were conducting the auditions were professionals with extensive experience in identifying the best fits for these programs. I personally know, not me, a student in my neighborhood who did not have the luxury of having endless expensive after school music lessons and yet was deemed successful in the audition, actually at this school. The lottery-based admission undermines the competency of the teachers as well as stripping away the opportunity for those not affluent students who would be selected based on their potential. The question is, does this mean that the school board doubts the ability, professionalism, and conduct of its teachers? Are we getting answers tonight, or are the answers, trustee, are we answering these, or are we just taking notes? The question was, does this mean that the school board doubts the ability, professionalism, and conduct of its teachers in recognizing the students who have potential? Yes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Actually, I would say that our board has faith in teachers to be able to teach whomever is in front of them. And the fact that with the with the specialized programming, the expertise that the staff bring are able to, we have the faith that no matter which student is in front of them, they do have the faith that they would give them the best quality education. That wasn't the question.
No, The question was that if the board doubts that the teachers can identify who has potential through the audition. So that's
Oh,
it. Yeah.
okay, so that's a little bit different. That, no, we don't doubt in terms of, we have faith. We have faith in our teachers.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't know if I held it myself.
All right. Another one. When I came to Canada, I was happy that the education system caters to all students at all levels. I was impressed that the school board's mission is to nurture each and every student so they can reach their full potential regardless of their social class and background. I am very disappointed that this is not the case anymore. Preventing students who have a higher level of aptitude in certain subjects to attend programs according to their talent and skills in lieu of the appearance of so-called social justice measures is nothing but virtue signaling. This is discrimination. My question is, I'm asking the trustees/school board to explain if they will be taking away the special education programs that cater to the students who have special needs as well. If not, why?
Okay, sorry. Very tough question. Like.
Okay, I'm gonna repeat the question
Yeah,
here.
sorry.
Okay, so basically it means that the students who have higher aptitude won't be able to attend the programs according to their needs. The question is that will the board take away the special programs for this other students who have lower needs and need special programs? So are they gonna do that? And if they're not doing that, why?
Okay, I think it's very good questions. I think is equity is about remove all the barriers to ensure all students reach their potential. So for high performing students, we should try to meet their need by providing those specialized program so they can succeed. For those students who also have need, they want to also get into the program, but they don't have the knowledge base. I think the board should provide some program, just like Dr. Peski mentioned, is like New York City School Board, they provide a program called DREAM, which is basically prep course for all those grade 7 students who want to get into specialty program. They have the summer or Saturday courses to get prepared, make sure they have the knowledge base, and then they can succeed in those exams and also the program. Thank you.
Susan, should I go more? All right, this is from a teacher. I teach at one of the schools that offer the merit-based admission math and science program. The courses I teach are not designated as part of that program. However, many of these specialized program students take the courses that I teach and are integrated with a variety of students, including gifted, ELL, and other students with IEP. I've always been able to identify which students are in the specialized programs on the first day I would have them in my class based on their conduct. These students enter grade 9 with a sense of purpose, strong determination. They are highly disciplined and beautiful. These characteristics are either based on their own personality, their upbringing, their years of training as a student, or a combination of all above. The question is, how does the school board expect the arbitrary admission to prepare students to instantly adopt such conduct necessary for success that is acquired through years of training? Trustee, superintendent? Oh, okay, I'll just read the questions because my understanding is that the questions are being taken to be answered later, or maybe answered more properly. If it's not the case, please tell me. Parent, last year, a TDSB student initiated a petition through change.org against the new lottery-based admission policy. The petition garnered wide attention with over 7,000 signatures and numerous comments from parents, students, and teachers. The petition is still attracting signatures and is now over 7,500. The said petition was shared with the TDSB trustees and staff. Question, so this is actually for trustees. Are you aware if the trustees at the time read the petition? If no, why? If yes, what is the rationale for ignoring 7,000 signatures?
Okay,
Did they read it?
that I don't really know. I wasn't there. Okay.
The rest.
Okay, I think that's enough. Maybe, Wilmar, you're going to ask, some question online, please?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, very good. There's a few categories of questions, both online and also pre-submitted. The one is looking back. How was the change, how were the changes made that are currently in front of us? What was the process and what was the consultation leading to these changes?
Okay, I think that question is, Mara, maybe you can take it. Thank you.
I can hand it to you.
Perfect, thank you. Do you want me in front or can I stand here for a different view? Okay.
I can't show you.
You can't show me there?
Okay. Let me show you.
So just to provide a little context about how we got to this point. Over the course of the last few years, what the board did was they offered opportunities for all stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, to give input on, based on the Enhancing Equity Task Force report. And through the director's response to the Enhancing Equity Task Force report, we were looking at our priorities for the multi-year strategic plan. So all of the consultation in terms of how we got to here came from, those consultations, from what parents, from what students, from what teachers had to say, not just through the Enhancing Equity Task Force report, but also through a secondary review. That's where all of this came from the voices of parents, staff, and students who were saying we need change as to how this is done.
Sorry, I'm trying to multitask, letting people into the Zoom meeting, my apologies. A second category of questions was, what is realistically the chance that this can still be changed? What is the process? And what is the timeline for this? And an associated question to that is, what can people do to help?
I think it's most important, you should have your voice heard by all the trustees. So sending the email to trustees will help. Also, there's various committees, you can delegate it yourself. Make sure you let the trustees know your concerns. So there's certain committee can go, like governance and the policy committee or plan and priority committees, okay? If you need all of those dates, I can give to you. And yeah, that's the most important. Have your concern, have your voice heard by all the trustees. Make sure they make the best decision for your children. Thank you.
Sorry, next category of questions is, if the system stays as it is now proposed, how will the TDSB evaluate the impact of the changes? What is the accountability? And if there's any numbers presented afterwards in terms of diversity splits, can that be split up by school? So the question is, will there be an evaluation of how the diversity was before the change in the system and after the change in the system? And can that be done school by school to take into consideration the existing diversity in some of the specialty schools?
Thank you very much. Stand here. Okay, so part of the original, as part of the original motion, what was agreed upon was 2 years after the motion was implemented, a report would be written to ascertain the effectiveness of it.
I think we're going to go back to the room. And then there's still a half hour left, so we'll go back to more questions.
Thank you. My name is Tasha and I'm a parent, living out of town and here with my daughter. She is a student in brilliant artist who always wants to go to Rosedale School of the Arts. They're on a wait list. Somehow with a miracle she got in, but she's still upset because one of her friends did not get into that school, into another school she applied for because of the lottery. But I'm not here to talk about that. And actually the last question you asked was one that I was going to address, which is data collection. I think that it's insufficient if the TDSB simply evaluates on the basis of diversity. It should also assess on the basis of student experience. So what I think that involves is not only tracking who gets into the schools, but how they do, what they feel, not just quantitative, but qualitative, talk to the students and teachers to see how the programs are impacted. Are students able to succeed, or was it simply a mistake that should be corrected because kids are set up to fail, which is what I fear is going to happen. And that's worse than kids not getting into the school. We owe it to them to set them up to succeed, and that starts way before they apply to high school, starts when they're in elementary school. We divert resources from wealthier areas to the areas that need it, because some schools need more support and they're not getting it, and that's not fair. So I want to commend you, Dr. Peng, and I want to ask the TDSB that they take proper data collection and track not just who gets in, but how they do and what this means for the program so that we can do better.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's okay. Okay.
Hey, hello. I'm actually another graduate of Earl Haig from '96. We also had a champion regional hockey team back then. And it's good to be back in the new school. So a few years ago, we were in the TDSB. My eldest daughter was identified as gifted. She was in the program, no problem. During COVID, though, we took a few years off to homeschool. We just felt that was best for our kids. And now we can't get back in. The issues with the specialized program appear to be extended to gifted as well. This seems to be more widespread. And the problem is that there was a process called SEPRC where you'd go in front of the committee and they'd make a decision about where your kid could go. Maybe you didn't like that decision, but you got one. Here, we don't even have a school to apply to. I can't apply to the gifted program to go in directly. I can go to my local school, but then if I actually get put back into gifted on some completely unknown and unclear timeline, and then have to switch schools mid-year. This is really disruptive to the mental health and academic well-being of my kid. And I just don't think it makes sense. And I guess my question is, especially to Dr. Pei, is as part of your mission, would you consider also restoring the SEPRC process, extend that extra sanity that you're bringing also back to the gifted program so we can get a clear answer about where we can go and how we can get back in. And I can give you more details about why this is a big problem for us and some other families as well.
Thank you very much for asking the question. Mara, do you have any answer for this parents particularly?
No, that I will take that.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, so email me your concern and I will try to talk to, whatever's the department, they can answer your question. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Salima, and I'm fortunate I have two children in grade 9 that are in specialized programs, but I have two children that are hoping to get into specialized programs in the next 5 years. My question is Dr. Tucker, sorry for mispronouncing his last name. He had a slide up that had some notes from 2021 that indicated that it sounded like the board was looking at getting rid of specialized programs altogether. So that's very concerning. I mean, this path we're going down right now is just as concerning. But my question is, what is the long-term plan? Like, why is that even in the minutes? in terms of, is it all about just the money, about revenue and finances? I was at a meeting at one of my son's schools downtown where the principal actually had shared that information with me, or with the group of us. And the feedback that she received was that the TDSB is actually looking at getting rid of all the specialized programs so that every school is uniform, so that you could go to basically any school for any program and there's no distinction. That's quite concerning and very discouraging for our future generations. So my question is really the why.
Mara, do you know, are you aware of this also? Okay.
I'm bringing,
Okay, sorry.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from. I'm bringing these comments back and that will be one of them. Thank you.
So Mara, I want to understand. So you bring it back, to the back of the board. I think that the parents want to get the answer. So how that the communication going to occur in the future? I just want to know want to make sure your question answered. Okay? Yeah, Mara, please.
Sure. So all of these questions, the ones we've received online, as well as the ones that are being asked here, I am writing and I know we're recording. The aim is for the questions that cannot be answered, including yours, to be able to provide a forum where we get those answers to you. How it will be published, I don't know yet in terms of what it will look like, but all of these are being taken back so that we can get these answers to you.
Thank you very much, Mara. Vilmar, is that possible? We can publish all the answer, question and answer on my website? Yeah. Okay, so for those parents whose question not answered, Mara, our Superintendent Mara Hamid is going to bring those questions back to the board. Try to get all the answers, okay? And then your question answer will be the answer. Your Q&A is going to be posted on my website, okay? So just search my, just TDSB Word 12 Trustee or Trustee Pay, PEI, okay? Very easy to remember. Okay, thank you. Okay, next.
Hello, my name is Sam Cates. I have a son in grade 5 at Claude Watson School for the Arts, and I'm also an Earl Haig graduate. Actually, speaking of my time at Earl Haig and Claude Watson program, when I was admitted, I actually didn't come from, we called it mini Claude Watson School for the Arts. I came in grade 9. So I did have to audition, but the Claude Watson's, the mini Claude students, Claude Watson School of the Arts students who were coming into Haig at the time, in grade 9, had basically an automatic pathway. And so essentially what you had at the time was a feeder school, which makes so much sense. And really my comment or question, and Trustee Pei, my wife and I spoke to you on the weekend, so I'll try to keep it brief. But basically, regardless, I mean, I fully support overturning the program, and it's my hope that that's the case. But in the case, sorry, the new policy, I mean, but in the case the policy does stay, or in either case, I guess my question to you and to the other trustees and the board is if they would consider reopening the automatic pathway to the elementary school Claude Watson art students. And actually this can apply to any number of specialty schools as well, where there is that natural pathway. I mean, one example is CH Best, I believe, has a cyber arts program, and Northview would be the natural high school that they would progress onto. Unfortunately, and this is what actually goes against the equity initiative, the equity piece of this is that you are, let's say you are plucking these students and giving them this opportunity, these students from priority groupings, you're giving them this opportunity in grade 4, let's say. And they have 5 years where they're reaching their potential in this program. And then come grade 8, and I was actually thinking to this young woman's story earlier, at grade 8, or at the end of grade 8, you're saying, sorry, it's a lottery. So I think Obviously, there's a bigger picture, which is, yes, let's try to do everything we can to overturn this policy. But maybe as a stopgap, or at least, it's basically forced us to look at our individual schools and our individual situations. Can we fight to reopen or even create new pathways between those elementary school specialty programs and their corresponding high school level programs, such as Royal High?
Thank you very much for that question. I think the new trustees and the 11 old trustees, I think we really just need to sit down to figure out what is the best solution for our children's education, to make sure they all get the best education they deserve at TDSB. So that's a conversation I'm gonna have with my fellow trustees. Thank you. Okay.
As a lead up to my question, I would just like to very respectfully offer a different perspective to the situation the superintendent described as to how the consultations arose. I was very involved during the late 2017 Enhancing Equity Task Force report and consultation. The Director of Education commissioned a single consultant to really provide the report that I think he or some senior staff wanted. She cherry-picked 200 special interest people to provide the feedback that they wanted. It was not well publicized. Only 2,000 parents were able to attend some public meetings initially before the initial report was released. And there were many anecdotal reports that parents who did not share the preferred narrative or were not of the correct race were discouraged from speaking. The report came out with very little opportunity for parents to hear about it or provide feedback. However, 7,000 parents in very short order did provide feedback. The report recommended cancellation of specialty arts, cancellation of specialized programs, cancellation of a number of special education supports, and cancellation of the gifted program, among other things. A student, I think from this school, who was in specialty arts, started a petition, and in very short order, about a week, got 1,000 signatures. 7,000 parents in the board gave feedback to the Director of Education, 5,000 strongly in support of the gifted program. And as a result, the Director of Education retracted many of the recommendations from the Enhancing Equity Task Force report. Now, I think everybody in the board, parents, students, staff, support the goal of giving every child an equal opportunity to achieve their potential, regardless of their circumstances, whatever those are. And the beginning of the Education Act says that's the purpose of education, to provide every student with an equal opportunity to achieve their potential. And in accordance with the provincial ministry pathways policy, which says we respect different pathways for different students. If you want to be a dancer, a plumber, a doctor, an artist, or an electrician, each should be able to pursue their own path and should be supported in doing that. In terms of the consultations for the specialized programs and for the secondary school review, I attended a number of them. And there were concerns that parents were asking, what are you asking us to provide an opinion on? What are you envisioning? And there was never any clear answer given. So I think the feedback was equally vague. This is articulated much better in a well-written 3-page complaint to the Ombudsman by parents at the Etobicoke School of Arts. I'm not associated with that group, but I've read the complaint. And so my question to the board is, in the interest of transparency and fully informing parents, because it did not really happen before the policy was changed, will you at least post publicly the ESA parents' complaint to the Ombudsman, which details in better language than I have right now some concerns about how the process for this change in policy occurred? Thank you very much.
So Mara, can you answer this question? Okay, all right. So Mara taking that question back to the board. Okay, the board are going to answer this question. And I'm gonna post answers on my website. Okay, great. So anybody else have any questions? Okay, so then I go back to online then. One more? Oh, Leila, okay.
Hi, this question is actually coming from my brother. He goes to Northview for the HMT specialized program, and he wanted me to specifically ask the trustees in the room, do you think that this lottery process did anything positive for these specialized programs, or do you think it was effective in causing equity? Like just a simple yes or no. I'm sorry, like this is coming from my brother.
So simple answer is no. Thank you. Okay, you want, okay, yeah.
This is what my brother specifically told me to say in response. What are you gonna do about it, considering it didn't do anything for equity? What's your plan for changing it? So that's.
So it will be better way to do it. The lottery system as it stands right now is unfair. Also, it's going to undermine the quality of those specialized program. So I want to work with my new board members to design the program which address equity issues, but same time address the accessibility issue to all students with all their different levels need. That's our goal. Thank you. So any other question from the floor?
Okay, we'll just take two more questions from the online.
One category of questions, I'm merging two questions is are the changes to the lottery and the admission the only changes that are being made, or are there also changes made to the program / curriculums? For example, is there a reduction in specialized courses? Is there a limited number of specializations possible or not, or being instituted or not? So one of the questions literally in the chat was, will the TDSB also report on how the programs have been modified to accommodate the lottery students? For example, TOPS on Bloor is going from 4 specialized courses in grade 9 to 2 and 6 in grade 10 down to 3. How will that affect the programs, and will that water them down?
Can you repeat the question, Wilma? I want to make sure I have it correct when I take it back.
The last question was, will there be a report on modifications to the programming that are being made to accommodate lottery students? For example, the reduction in number of specialized courses at the TOPS on Bloor program. And will this lead to a watered down program? That was one of the questions. Is that one that's coming back okay. So superintendent is noting that question, and will report back on that in either the Q&A or the other formats that will follow up on this meeting. Another question is about how will the changes affect the makeup of the classes and the programs? Most specifically, will it affect will there be an enthusiasm gap between the students that are coming in, whether they have been coming in as lottery or whether they came in by other admission criteria? And will there be a difference in competency levels? And will that lead to a problem in the school itself between the new group coming in and the older grades, for example? Sorry, questions. The question is whether there is an enthusiasm between the students that are now coming in the lottery system versus the students that came in under the previous admission processes. Is there any way to measure or evaluate whether there is any enthusiasm gap? Will the new people that come in be less enthusiastic about the specific subject that they're coming in for? And will it affect the competency levels with which they will enter the program?
Thank you.
I do have one or two more later. Are you going to take them?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, since all the parents who are here have already asked their questions, I'm gonna just kind of take my hat off as moderator and ask a couple more questions as a parent, representing Earl Hague Parent Council. My first question will be, how many students, and we've asked this data, and my parent co-chair has also asked the trustees, but we haven't received an answer. And we're asking how many students who have applied and have gotten accepted into this current lottery system came from TDSB, and how many came from non-TDSB schools, specifically private schools in the area. I know that we are mandated from the board to accept any student who has a postal code in this district, but they're allowed to go to their home school. I agree with that. If you live in the area, you should be able to go to your home school. But what I don't agree with, and I find a little bit problematic, is that if there are students who are private school students being accepted into these specialized programs, when the whole reason we switched from the merit-based or audition-based to lottery was to increase diversity and equity. And then if we're accepting students from the private school system, doesn't that defeat your purpose? So that is a big concern to me, number one. And then number two, never in the process of the consultations when we were talking about lottery, when we were talking about equity, diversity, was ever it mentioned that the program itself would change, especially, I'm not talking about tops or max because I don't know it, but personally, because my son is in his graduating year, grade 12, Claude Watson. My daughter is in grade 9, Claude Watson dance. It bothers me that they would, if when they had to come in and they were told they had to do general arts, I know my son would never have gone in. And I'm going to tell you, Claude Watson, he's in the percussion program, he's a percussionist for the music program. It was his saving grace. We didn't have the money to afford him, music lessons. And I just found out maybe a year ago, some things that had happened to him in junior high. And if he didn't have the music program, I think he would have just lost it a little bit through COVID and all that. And we kind of almost lost him a little bit this year. He's very private about it. He doesn't want, no, now it's public, I'm sorry. But if it was a general arts program, he would have never applied. And then he would have just suffered. But because he had the music program, because he excels in percussion, just because he likes it, it has given him so much confidence, and he walks around very confident in what he does. And it's what's saving him from the university applications right now, and all that anxiety that it causes. And he sits there 2-3 hours creating music because of the music program. But I'm asking, why are you touching the program when you're talking about equity and diversity? Why are you touching the program? Why are you changing the program? Is my second question. Like, these two things I don't understand. When you're talking about equity and diversity and you're accepting students from the private schools, that to me doesn't equate equity and diversity. And number two, why are you touching a program that works, that is doing really well for all of the students who are attending? Let them continue with the way the curriculum is being taught. And why are the teachers who are the frontline workers not being the ones who are creating these programs? And why is the board directing how these programs are to be run?
So Mara, you're taking back the questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, Sabrina, okay. Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
This is really quick. So, hi again. I had one question about this. So I'm still not sure who the sources were that the TDSB spoke to, who the parents were, because we certainly didn't get any emails. My son, his friends, nobody got an email, nobody was consulted. So I'm not really sure who the TDSB consulted to make this policy, like a small cohort of people that they cherry picked, like that lady mentioned before. So my question is that, what's the whole purpose of getting rid of these programs? Is it to save money so that, so if they're saving the money, where's the money going to go? What is it going to get allocated for? I mean, is it for their salaries or to hire more trustees? I don't know. But what's the reason? Like, why are they against these specialized programs in the first place? I mean, I think like the professor explained, that it's not really going to help the demographically underprivileged people anyway, all that much. So what are they saving the money for? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any more questions from the floor? Okay, if there's no, Vilmar, I'm back to you.
A couple of questions I found in the chat as well. One is quite specific. What will the TDSB do if the data shows that East and South Asian students were the most impacted group of the lottery system changing? For example, that they will get less spots than before.
What will TDSB do?
If the data shows that East and Southeast impacted group of the lottery system in case, like, meaning that they get less spots than they used to. East and South, East Asian and Southeast Asian, I guess.
Great.
And the other question is, what changes would Dr. Pei propose be made to the additions if it was to change back to eliminate systemic barriers to students with learning disabilities who previously could not be successful in the Claude Watson additions? What is being called merit is in some cases proxy for talent / genetics and ableism. Many students with learning disabilities require multi-sensory education to learn, often have lots of artistic capacity, and may not thrive in their home schools, yet they could not access Claude Watson through the prior audition process. So if it goes back to additions, will it be more accessible to certain groups?
Thank you. I think that's very important. So we need to hear from all questions, all students, all parents regarding the concerns. And then we, as a trustee, we had to work together to figure out what is the best solution for our children's education. Thank you. Sure. There you go.
I just want to make a comment about that as someone who's familiar with the audition process. The Claude Watson, at least the mini Claude audition process, they're actually looking out for kids who have special needs. Because a lot of times these special needs children, for example, kids who are autistic, they actually excel in art. Some of them are exceptional in art. And because of the audition, they are able to identify these special needs children rather than the lottery system. The lottery system actually systemically prevents these children from getting into the program. So that's one thing I actually want to highlight.
That's wonderful. Wonderful answer. I think, Llewellyn, maybe you should run trustee next time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any more questions? Vilmar, that's it?
Sorry. The other co-chair for Earl Hague Parent Council is Peski, maybe she's online. She asked, so two more questions. One is, she said that in the identification where students are to self-identify, so she's raised it on numerous occasions since last year, that you missed two categories. In the first category are our special needs students, but the second category were the LGBTQ plus students. And when you have to identify online or on paper, parents are often looking over the shoulder of these students, and some students don't feel comfortable identifying themselves in front of their parent. And so then you're really separating and isolating a whole demographic of kids who are unable to identify. So there needs to be a better way to include these, and these two groups were excluded from this lottery process in the high school section. And so we want to put that on record. And then the second thing that she's asking is, why is no one responding to any of her emails that she has sent out numerous emails since last year, and she has not gotten one response to the board staff and to all the trustees. The only response that she did get was for the FOI request, and she was told she had to pay $4,500 for the FOI. That was it. And sorry, she asked me to put that on record.
Thank you.
I want to say something. Yeah, I think lottery doesn't make sense, even for the chair in the TDSB herself. I think so. Who knows when she comes back home what she think about it, right? So I mean, human civilization based on not lottery, right? Even you want to get married, you're looking for a husband or wife. Is a lottery? It's not. Right? Where do you want to live? You want to move to where? I moved from China to Canada. It's not bad, right? Lottery, right? I think some people want to move some better place. And the lottery does not need any thinking. It doesn't cost any energy or thinking, like what the human civilization grow based on, right? So you have to think about it, doing this or that. A lottery doesn't cost any thinking. I think it's just kind of just even animal. They're looking for their partners. They have to think about who should I look for, right? So this is what I'm thinking about lottery. Lottery is not moving our even the city, the school moving forward. Maybe it's backwards. This is my point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. If no more questions, I think this will wrap up our tonight's forum. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone online for participating.
Sorry, everyone, before you leave.
Would you mind looking around and if you were eating something and pick up whatever water bottle, whatever wrapper, and put in the garbage? Thank you so much.
One last word. Last question is, where do we go from here? What do we do about this? I have in my hand. I have in my hand here some delegation request forms for the TDSB. If you want to make your views known to members of the board in a more formal setting, please take one of these, fill it out, send it into the board, and you have the right to speak at a committee meeting coming up. Please come to this very nice lady over here, and she has copies of them for you.